Hey everyone, welcome to the ITMI podcast, where we try to get inside the big topics of the music industry. Today's guest is Duncan Beiny, better known as DJ Yoda. Now, I've been following his career for a long time and I'm a big fan. This guy has worked with everybody, and I mean everybody, going from Dr. Dre to Banksy. He has a new record out called Home Cooking, which you absolutely must check out. And we caught up with him right after he has played a sold-out gig at the iconic Ronnie Scott's right here in London. Now, this podcast, we touch on all kinds of things, from where hip-hop is going, to race, to politics and music. I really hope you enjoy it. And, you know, Yoda is going to be on tour this summer, so make sure you check out his website, djyoda.co.uk, to find out more, to check out Home Cooking, and see where he's going to be playing next. So here it is, DJ Yoda. Enjoy. All right, so it's me, Dr. Jennifer Otter Bickerdike, and we're in Shoreditch with someone that I have been wanting to get on the, well, just meet in general, because I have a huge crush on him. DJ Yoda, Duncan Beiny, thank you so much for being here.
Hello.
Hip-hop producer, DJ,
Yes.
What else? Are you a good cook?
I'm not a doctor, so you're a step ahead.
Well, no, that's overrated. I can't make a beat, my friend. I still don't tell anyone. I still am like, is that a bass or a guitar?
Oh yeah,
It's not
I don't even know that.
Yeah.
I mean, the amazing thing is that I've just finished an album, put together a tour, and it's very kind of jazz heavy, soul heavy, a lot of live instruments, and yet I don't write or read music.
Really?
Yeah, so it's just, I'm just dealing with it in the way of like using the words that I have, the vocabulary that I have, but it's definitely not the technical. I'm not talking about B flat, and you know, like all that
Duncan,
stuff.
when you were putting that together, is this all just on? I'm gonna sound so lame. Is this on the keyboard, or like how is this happening? Like, are you hearing sounds, and those sounds are what you're putting down, or what is that?
I just approach it from a hip hop DJ perspective, which is I start with samples and make beats, and then layer stuff on top of those beats, and then I've got this kind of good contacts now in the worlds of music that I can say, hey, I would like a cello on this song, or I'd like a trombone on this song, and call in the people that I want and say, do a bit over this, but no, do it more like this, and then treat that stuff like samples.
Are you like faster but slower, like that kind of producer?
I don't know what kind of producer I am. I mean, I know that it takes me a long time. Yeah, like this album took 3 years, and that's the quickest I've done an album. This is my 4th album, and they've all taken longer than this one. So the fact that I've even kind of narrowed it down to 3 years is kind of impressed with myself with that.
Big accomplishment.
Yeah.
So, well, I want to talk about you being on tour and stuff at the end, but let's just start here. When did you first know you wanted to be a DJ or a turntablist, and how did you pursue this?
I didn't ever set out to be a DJ. It was always my area of interest. I grew up, my parents were both in the music industry, so my dad kept his record collection in my bedroom, so I was literally surrounded by records, you know, like messing around with records, and the music that I was listening to when I was a kid had a lot of scratching and samples, and so I would try and emulate that.
Were you here in London?
Yeah, grew up in London.
So, yeah. And how old are you?
41.
Okay, so you're the same age as my husband. My husband just has a real affinity to like New York, especially when he was younger, and all the music coming out of there. He remembers, he and I have talked about this a lot, like first hearing Buffalo Girls by Malcolm McLaren. Yeah. Was it those kind of moments that you
I mean, there was definitely an era in the late 80s when pop music, which is what I was kind of exposed to as a kid, everything would have this kind of hip-hop remix, and you'd get kind of these cheesy samples from movies on top of the songs, and like kind of fake scratching on top of it, and that was the stuff that really caught my ear. And there was also this era of kind of like joke hip-hop records, you know, like Mel Brooks doing hip-hop records, and
Bart Simpson,
and Rodney Dangerfield.
I can so see his face in my mind
I've got the 7-inch.
Yeah, and I can totally see that.
But I like the stuff that made me laugh. So I liked comedy, and I liked pop, and I liked hip hop, and you know, when those things all collided with that. I mean, the first record I ever bought was by a furry rodent called Roland Rat, who was like on Breakfast TV in the UK, and he did this kind of like rat rapping record.
Rat rapping?
Yeah.
Please tell me you still have this.
Of course, yeah.
Yes!
Picture disc.
Why do people not make picture discs anymore, by the way?
I don't know. You don't see so much of that, do you? You get a lot of coloured vinyl, but not pictures. It's true. One
of my best friends and I, we are obsessed with the Lost Boys, and we're like, there has to be can you imagine Lost Boys, the soundtrack? Can you imagine
I love that soundtrack. Yeah.
I've been pushing. I've emailed a couple people at Warner Brothers. I'm like, we have a reissue on vinyl.
Yeah, that seems like it's overdue.
See, another DJ Yoda. You heard it here first. So I have to ask. In 2009, we have the Nas song "Hip Hop Is Dead," which I've listened to every remix, love it. And strangely, he has "Will I Am" on that song, which to me says that hip hop is fucking dead.
Yeah, that's kind of ironic in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Do you think 10 years later is hip hop dead?
No, hip hop's not dead. I don't think. I mean, hip hop is huge. It's so big that it just encompasses everything. Everything that you get in culture and in life, you can find in hip hop. So there is deeply commercial stuff, there's deeply underground stuff, there's religious stuff, there's weird political stuff. There's like whatever you want, you can find it. And I still find the kind of hip hop that I like out there. People are making it, but it is like a diamond in the dirt. It's like 0.01% of the output of hip hop that's coming out. So yeah, I think hip hop is too big to kind of label as one thing. It's definitely not dead, in my view. I
mean, I always think of hip hop when I've had to teach about hip hop before. I'm like, well, there's the different. Rap is the music, and hip hop is the lifestyle. That's what I've always said.
Yeah, that thing seems to have died a bit.
You think so? Well, that's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, I think actually the kind of culture of hip hop, you could probably argue that is dead.
And when you say culture of hip hop,
I'm talking about graffiti, breakdance, DJing, these kind of like
80s kind of similar,
yeah, exactly.
Like
those kind of like four pillars of hip hop kind of thing. Like I was deeply into the turntablistic thing in the 90s. That kind of disappeared up its own arse. It got too technical. People were getting very clever with what they're doing, but it stopped becoming about entertainment, and it was not really an enjoyable thing so much as it got just really, overly scientific and like just all the fun was sucked out of it as far as I was concerned. So there are kind of glimmers of hope in that world. There's this Red Bull 3-star championships, which I think is a good way for that kind of DJ competition thing to come back. I think they found a good format for it, and that seems to be increasing in popularity. And yeah, there are little pockets of kind of beatboxing going on, people doing interesting stuff with that. But yeah, hip hop in the 80s and the early 90s, it was about those big pillars of the culture. And yeah, I think you could argue that is no longer a thing.
Because is that good or bad, do you think?
Probably bad, but I also think that there's only so far you can take some stuff. And I mean, you probably know more about this than me, given the nature of what you're a doctor of, but culture is, you can't, there are eras for things, and things get explored, and then you move on and find something else. And yeah, I guess what we call hip hop now, what was a culture, is now kind of just pop music, or a style of pop music in the way that country is now, or blues is now. And that's really interesting to me as well, is to watch what happened to blues happen with hip hop. I'm listening to a lot.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, essentially that white people take over it and kind of gentrify it, and it becomes a thing that you kind of sit down and like enjoy a good meal to.
But rather that's jazz.
It happens to everything. It happens to absolutely every form of music in the last 100 years that came out of America.
Gay people, black people, they do everything cool.
Yes.
And white people
and then white people ruin it.
Yeah,
yes.
That's exactly what, I mean, that has been my extremely, probably unpolitically correct stance for many years.
I think you'd be hard pressed to argue with that, whether you thought it's politically correct or not. It happened from before Elvis.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to watch it happen with hip hop. And I also don't kind of like, it doesn't escape me the irony of my involvement in that. Yes, I am like a white guy playing hip hop music, but I play what I like, and make what I like, and all I'm saying is I don't excuse myself from that entirely as well. I'm at least self-aware.
I think that's a difficult one though, because I remember being at many hip hop shows and being in the early days. We're going back to the 80s, but I remember going to see Sir Mix-a-Lot, and being the only white person there in Salinas, California, and being like, it was, to say it was underground is probably not really how it was, but to me it seemed very dangerous and very like. That was my first time being the only white person in a room of black people, or when I wasn't the majority. But then on the flip of that, I remember going many tours of like Jurassic 5 or Blackalicious, and the only black people in the room were the ones up on stage.
Yeah, I wouldn't describe that as... Well, it's really interesting also the kind of connection between what's considered cool and danger. Because there's always a kind of... In that Venn diagram, you know, there's a cross-section there. And that's why smoking is cool and doing dangerous things is cool. And when you associate danger with music, whether it's punk or hip-hop or anything, I think that... I'm really fascinated with what people think is cool. And also love that kind of circle of cool and uncool, and where the little kind of grey area is between those two things. Like, that's something that I really like as well.
But also when uncool then comes back.
Well, the other thing is with DJing, you have to be a nerd to be a decent DJ, I think. I can't think of an exception to that rule. You have to have that kind of... you have to want to categorize and collect, and, you know, that aspect has to be there, and it's nerdy. So anyone thinking like DJs are cool in any way, it's like, no, they're geeks. You have to be a geek to do that. And if someone doesn't have that, I don't really take them very seriously as a DJ. It's
also the knowledge that you have to have, though, too.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You know what I mean?
Have to, like, want to fill your brain up with that stuff and understand, you know, kind of record labels and B-sides and remixes and all this stuff.
Oh, B-sides. Oh, get me hot and bothered saying B-side. One thing that is, I remember, like, this is going back in the 90s, when I was DJing somewhere and I had my massive, like, rolling vinyl, and another guy comes in after me to play his set and he has it on a USB stick. I 100% understand that, but to me, that's not the same. Like, where do you stand on that?
Well, I mean, I'm watching now the biggest DJs in the game putting on shows that do not involve selecting records, mixing them, using kind of any technical skill to mix them. To begin with, I got super annoyed about it. And then I started to realize, well, this is just a different thing. The only thing that annoys me about it now is that it gets called DJing. I just wish they would come up with a different name for what that is. Programming or light show or whatever it is.
USB stick?
USB stick show. It's a different... DJing is, you know, a hospital radio DJ is a DJ. A classical FM DJ is a DJ. DJ means a lot of different things. So I just started to realize, okay, what I understand as DJing is one pocket of the world of DJing. This kind of like hip-hop background, the turntablist background. It's just one way of doing things. So I don't let the rest of it annoy me too much. But I have to say, like, I can't believe that there are people out there getting paid good money to go and just plug their phone into and just play songs off their phone. It's just a
hard one, because if, let's say someone came to me and said, mind you, I'm not DJ Yoda, I'm just a random middle-aged woman who likes vinyl records. So if they said, we'll pay you, if they paid me £100, I'd be like, I'm up in that, you know.
Sure.
So of course I would do it, even though in my mind, like, my morals say it's not, part of DJing, as we call it, is reading the crowd. Where is it going? What's going into what next?
Well, that's what I always understood it as. And I still, if every show I do, I treat it like a DJ. I stand there, I suss out the room before I start playing, I think about who's there. I watch for feedback, and then because of the nature of the way I play, in terms of I play every kind of music, I really don't limit myself to any specific kind of music. That's a good way for me to kind of like, I try out some reggae. This crowd doesn't seem like they really want any reggae. Let me try out some kind of soul stuff. They seem like they want soul. I'll go further down that direction. So that, to me, is DJing, is like feeding off a crowd in a room and taking it off in the right direction. Yeah,
interaction. We kind of touched on this earlier, but I just wanted to kind of come back to this for a second. Was being a white guy in the hip-hop game a detriment when you started?
No, not in the world that I grew up in. I mean, I'm from London, and my kind of first interactions with hip-hop as a culture, because to begin with, the first few years I was just trying to teach myself to DJ with not knowing anyone that liked that kind of music, or there was no YouTube and there was no videos. I just was figuring it out alone. Then I discovered the record shops in Soho, and no, I didn't stick out as a white person in that environment. You know, the other DJs that I met to begin with they weren't of any specific ethnicity. It was just everyone. So I think it's I kind of felt included from the start. Yeah.
Do you ever get into conversations, or have you gotten in conversations with other DJs about race and music and
not so much
appropriation.
DJs as rappers and singers, and that's been really enlightening to me. Actually, it still fascinates me. Like I see the different perspectives that everyone comes at it from, and it just reminds me to kind of bear that in mind always, because it's very easy to kind of get comfortable in your own way of thinking about things. Then you realize, oh, a black person would see this in a totally different way, or a gay person would see this, or you just have to kind of try and remain as open-minded as you can constantly.
Is there an example of that?
I'm trying to think of one. One of the kind of singers that I toured with this week, she has issues with people always wanting to touch her hair and asking to touch her hair, like that's okay.
Really?
Yeah. Sometimes people ask, sometimes will people just touch her hair? And I'm like, wow.
Is she black?
Yeah. And I just thought, God, I'm so lucky that I don't have to deal with that shit every time I go out. I mean, like, just stuff like that, you take your own position for granted a lot. So, yeah, I think that's an example of like having to kind of think about things from other people's perspective. And
that's a good one, because that's something that like I've heard that from black friends before, but it's something that every single day she just lives with, and it's just part of her experience. It's part of her reality, and something that she's thinking about every time she steps outside. Yeah. That I don't ever have to think about. I think the first time I thought about race really seriously is I was going to UC Berkeley, which is right next to Oakland in California, and I was working at the Gap, as one does, okay?
Like Kanye.
I model all my decisions even before I knew him on Kanye. Anyway, and one of my colleagues, and this is like when Gap was very it still is, very, very preppy, and one of my colleagues was a black guy named Bo, and I remember him saying, watch what happens if we walk down the street together, people will react to me, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And here's this guy, very well dressed, going to UC Berkeley, like one of the best universities in the world, I would say. And it's true, like I did start noticing when he and I walked down the street, people did, and this is in the 90s obviously, but there was a little bit of the purse a little bit closer to the body. There was some of that. And it was just, Duncan, it blew me away.
Well, here we are, 2019 in London. We had rehearsals last week before my tour started. And one of the singers that was going to rehearsal, he said the black cab kind of slowed down to pick him up, and then saw he was black and then kind of didn't pick him up. I was like, wow, here we are. That's still happening. Like, it's, yeah.
Where is hip hop going?
Wow. I think I'd probably go back to what I said before, in that it's firing off in so many directions. No one, I remember in the early 90s, when the golden era of hip hop, you could keep track of every album that came out. There were a few enough personalities that you understood who everyone was in the game. There's nothing like that anymore. There's too much happening for any one person to keep tabs on. And especially, I don't just think about hip hop as well. I'm trying to follow all these other different types of music at the same time. So all I can really do from one person's perspective is be aware of the artists that I like, follow their output, take on tips from other people whose taste that I trust, and follow things off in different directions. But there's no way that I can kind of gauge where the entire... I don't think there is a scene. I don't think of that as hip-hop as a scene anymore. There's weird little bubbles of stuff that happens within hip-hop. So you get these kind of like certain sounds. There's a big thing at the moment of like... I don't know if you're aware of Alchemist as a producer, but that kind of sound is like, they seem to have stripped the drums away from hip hop. There's like...
Just strange.
Which is a weird thing, but like, so artists like Carr from Brooklyn or Rock Marciano, all these guys, the beats are just kind of abstract, jazzy kind of loops, but with no drums. And that seems to be like a thing, but that's definitely not where hip hop's going. That's just like I say, a bubble.
Recently, you did an interview about 3 Feet High and Rising by De La Soul, which is one of, in my opinion, top 20 record of all time with Phil Collins.
Similar kind of thing.
That's right, yeah. But do you think there's going to be records? Like, I personally really think, like, I interviewed Don Lutz a year ago, and he said we're in a time period where it's very, very thin culturally on the ground.
Yeah.
And so are there going to be records that we look back 20, 30 years in the future and go, oh my God, besides yours, of course, that DJ Yoda record.
Of course. I think that's a really good point. And yeah, I do suspect that we kind of we're in a situation of quantity, not quality, with culture, because we're all being bombarded with so much information and media every day that an album now doesn't mean what it used to mean. I mean, I've just brought an album out, and one of the things that I've realized is there's not really any good album reviews anymore. There's no outlet for people reviewing albums in a good way. Even the kind of Sunday papers and stuff, there's like, some of them just don't even review albums. People just don't have the headspace or the time. And even when a Beyonce or whoever drops an album, they get like a weekend of people talking about it on Twitter, and then it's kind of like gone in the ether with everything else. So I just fear that there's just too much. And because of that, people aren't really crafting and putting time into a format like an album. I think you get good songs, and I do think you get good albums, but I think that's an interesting point, and I think I'd probably agree with it. I do wonder what people would look back on out of this kind of decade and think is classic. It's hard to tell it's always hard to tell at the time, but there doesn't seem to be much.
I mean, I can't tell if I'm nostalgic, which is very, very likely, or if the records were better, but you put on those early Public Enemies, you put on Illmatic, you put that shit on. It's
all those things that you're mentioning,
fucking hell.
The thing that sets them apart is they had some kind of focus in that the artist was trying to say something from the start, and that really pulls together something, I think, especially like an album, when you're like trying to get across a point. And you don't hear much of that now. It's hard to think of an example of anyone doing that. Despite kind of everything that's going on in politics, there's not very much politically charged music.
But Duncan, that's what's so upsetting. Sorry, I know we need to move on point ways, but that to me is the massive shame, because urgency is the word. When you were saying like those things had a message, there's an urgency, and like now is when we urgently need music like that.
And people are making the most kind of
shitty, like vapid stuff ever.
Vapid was the word I was looking for. I
mean, you listen to that first Rage Against the Machine record, and still, like, I played it a year and a half ago for some students, and I was like brought to tears. I'm like, why is it these songs? Like, these songs the lyrics could still context.
And you can even get that kind of, you can hear that passion in amazing records that don't even have lyrics. You hear it in jazz. You can hear it in instrumental music even. But yet still no one seems to be doing anything like that at the moment.
So how has streaming impacted you as an artist?
I mean, it's just kind of, it speaks to everything that we've just been saying. I feel like I've approached this last album that I've done in quite an old school way. I'd spent a long time crafting it, despite all this stuff. I know like it's going to be just another album on Spotify, like everything else. But I don't have another way of doing it. I don't want to make some throwaway songs and just throw them out there. I wanted to do something like that. So now I'm kind of fighting a different battle. It's more just making some noise in all that kind of media that I was talking about. It's alerting to people the fact like, hey, please spend an hour with this. And getting people to do that is hard. I think that in the climate we're in now, your best bet for that is just finding someone with a lot of followers to like tell everyone about it. It's not from getting a good review in Time Out magazine. Like, that's not the way things work anymore. It's people listen to influencers. So I think that is the environment that I'm operating in now.
And who are the influencers? That's what I always think is interesting. Like, shouldn't I be an influencer? Because I'm a doctor of cultural studies.
It doesn't come down to that.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't come down to that. But again, going back to what you said before about taste, you know what I mean? Like, that's another thing. And I think, we're in a very strange time right now.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to last like this. I think this is a kind of process that we have to get through to get to a way that things will work that makes a bit more sense. Because, if we're all sitting around kind of like watching what a Kardashian does,
You have to think
And
this so
using-
because you have children, because otherwise, I
Yeah.
mean, have you seen? I want to say it's Adam Sandler, but I think it's I can't remember his name, but it's he gets like thrust into the future, and everybody's really really stupid. What's that movie called?
Is it Idiocracy?
Yes.
Yeah.
But you watch that, and I'm like, oh, we're living that.
We're
now.
living that time. Yeah.
We're living it right now.
I know, and
you know?
all I can hope is that, like I say, it's a process, and we just got to get through this bit.
Yeah. No. Well, that's good. Okay, so let's talk about some tech stuff. What things, like, tell me 3 things you swear by tech-wise, production and live.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, first and foremost, a Technics turntable. Like, was the start of it all. I literally like carried it into my studio today, which a Technics turntable that I've had since I was 16 years old, that I'm still using. I took it to rehearsals the other day. So that kind of goes to show all this technology kind of appears, and the latest stuff the second thing that I'll say is this thing called Phase, PHASE, which has just come out and is a bit of a game changer for people like me. It's like a kind of, it looks like a USB stick, but with a hole in the middle. You put it in the middle of the turntable, and it kind of, when you start the turntable platter, it reads with Serato. So you just...
No.
Yeah, I don't even know how it works.
Shut up.
But it's like magic.
Hold on a second. So like, I'm coming with my Phil Collins. Do I put the Phil Collins on first?
You just
and then I
use
put it
any
on
record
top?
you want, or no record.
Phil Collins or record of your choice.
Okay, so Phil Collins or a record of your choice.
Yeah. Can you do with 45s?
You can do with anything.
Oh my God,
I mean,
I'm
you
so
can do it.
excited.
People have been doing it with office chairs, like spinning it around and scratching with an office chair.
No.
Or spinning it around a pencil, you know.
Okay, so with turntable, I put the vinyl on it.
Yeah, then you put this little phase thing on top of the record.
Where? Like in the little...
In the middle,
Okay,
yeah.
That's where the hole.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
And then as you press play, the computer reads it. So you don't need the cartridge or the needle on the record. You don't need the turntables plugged into the mixer.
No.
All they got to do is turn around.
And so then will it tell you like this is like the BPM sort of match?
Yeah, or read the speed that it turns round at. It will respond to scratching perfectly. Because a lot of the problem for the setup that I've used with this kind of Serato and turntables thing is that turntables are getting old and they need to be clean and well looked after to work with Serato. So a lot of the time I turn up at festivals or clubs and it just doesn't work. The thing falls apart. I've ended up doing whole shows off one turntable because of that.
No. Oh my God. How long was that? How long was that show? I'm so stressed.
Like DJ for 2 hours.
No!
You can do it. There's a way of doing it.
How do you do that? Because you just stop it.
You want to know technically how
Yes,
you do that?
could you tell me?
So if you have one turntable, you play a song and then you throw it over to the other side on internal mode. So then it just kind of is playing on the other side, and then you can use the turntable again to mix in the next song.
God.
Yeah, it's far from ideal, but you can do it. But so there's been all these issues, tech issues with Serato and records, and this phase thing solves all of that. I've used it for this tour the last week, and it's been great. So that would be my second bit of tech. And then the other thing is, well, I use this, so a lot of DJs use Serato, but I use Serato Video. So for these AV shows that I do, I'm mixing video as well as audio at the same time.
Really?
Yeah. So it's,
What video?
well, this is the thing I was going to say. Everyone uses it for different purposes. Some people just mix music videos. Some people use it for kind of ambient, swirly, psychedelic stuff. I do a lot of sampling of movies and TV shows.
Look at your background.
That's my thing. So I will kind of try and make clips from movies work with certain songs and YouTube stuff and just anything that I think is cool. Treat it like sampling in the same way that I do with music.
Does that take you forever though to get all that together?
Yeah, so that's what I do on like a Tuesday afternoon.
So did we get 2 or 3? What was your third? You'd Phase. You had
a Serato Video then.
Serato Video.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I recommend a movie I just was watching?
Yeah.
You may not be your thing. It's called Striptease with Nico
I don't know
from the
that.
Velvet Underground.
Okay.
It is so beautiful.
What
Black
is it?
and white though.
Yeah.
It's really interesting because that's what my new book is about, Nico, that I'm working on right now. And it's basically this girl. She's a ballet. It would be really cool, I think, because it's the cinematography is very like Francais from like 1963 kind of vibe.
That sounds cool.
But it's cool. What films particular? I mean, we know you like the. Can I still tell you? I'm still obsessed with Corey Haim and Corey Feldman.
Do you know who I'm a bit obsessed with at the moment is Balthazar Getty.
Are you?
Yeah.
That's
in the same vein as what you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay, so
because
how?
because he makes hip hop now.
No.
And so he's also was in the recent series of Twin Peaks.
Was he?
Which is my favorite thing, hands down, in the world, like more than hip hop.
Movies too?
Yeah.
See, I didn't go back to this last round of Twin Peaks.
Okay,
I'm like, I didn't want to fuck with perfection.
In all honesty, I can't even recommend it to you because it's so deeply personal to me that I just...
If I didn't like
it wouldn't mean the same to anyone else as it does to me. But I grew up with that first... You know, I remember watching it on TV when it first came out.
How exciting it was. It was just like everybody would talk about it.
It was
such a thing.
It was so huge to me that I don't even have the words to talk about it, to be honest with you. Yeah, there are some people that I just... Like, for instance, David Lynch, I don't want to meet him.
No.
Because I don't want it ruined for me. Like, he's my absolute hero. Yeah.
Have you met any, like I've met, like my two favorite bands growing up were The Cure and The Smiths. The one time I met Morrissey, I fainted. I'm 6 feet tall, Duncan. It was not a cute situation.
You don't really want to meet Morrissey. That would ruin it, wouldn't it?
And when I've met Robert Smith 3 times, every time sweating profusely.
Yeah.
You know, it's not
I
attractive.
say don't meet your heroes.
Yeah,
that's probably not a good idea.
So you've been dancing around this issue. I want to hear. Tell us this new record came out a month ago. Is that what you said?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can you buy a physical? Please tell me there's a physical copy.
There is
of this.
vinyl.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah.
You can.
And what are you?
There's even CDs. Like I couldn't believe I had CDs with me on tour,
CDs?
but yeah, people were buying them. It's
Really?
like, who are you people? Why do you need CDs?
You're a fan of mine. That's always the weirdest thing.
But it does seem to be that like the physical format depends on the demographic. So there are certain kinds of music, whether it's folk or like music specifically for people of a certain age, but there are people that still want CDs and tapes. You know,
I was about to ask you,
yeah.
are tapes making a comeback?
They never went away from me. I've got a tape player in my car, and that's that's what I listen to is all my tapes from when I was a teenager. Like that's when I'm driving around. I'm listening to like Westwood on Radio 1 from 1994 or whatever.
You and my husband are like my husband constantly is listening to because a bunch of them are on SoundCloud now too. So he listens to them on SoundCloud too. It's like 1994 Westwood. Yeah. Do you know what? My friend, I had a storage space in California. And she cleared it all out for me last year. And the best thing that was in there was literally, it was like a box, mixtapes. And they're all, I seem to make a lot of mixtapes when I was having boy trouble.
Yeah.
It's like Broken Heart Mix, 1998.
Yeah, that's what I listen to. It's like my mixtapes from when I was younger.
Because a mixtape is so much different than a mixed CD.
It's a great format to listen to music in because you can skip past stuff, but it's annoying, so you don't, and so you're forced to sit with albums properly. And I made all these pause tapes before I even had turntables of just the best bits of songs. And
you were a nerd. I love it.
Yeah, you got to be. Yeah.
Did you ever make your now wife a mixtape when you guys were dating?
No.
Did you used to make girls mixtapes?
No.
Really?
No. This is all compartmentalized.
It's all for you. So we keep that. That's for you.
That's for you. Yeah.
That's for you. We don't do that for the ladies.
Exactly.
So are you on tour this summer then?
Yeah. The last week I've just come off a really intense kind of week with the live band, kind of performing tracks from the record, and we were somewhere different every night. Oh. It's been amazing though. It's been
What's it like being on the road now?
Cool. It's really cool. It's intense and it's a different life for a few days. But it's been a great run, and we finished it on Sunday night at Ronnie Scott's.
Oh, how fabulous.
Yeah, which was just ideal with this record because it's very jazz and soul, and a sold out Ronnie Scott's was like the absolute ideal way to end the tour. It was a really special night actually. It was kind of up there with best shows I've ever had. Yeah. So that was really cool. And then we're going to do a few... I'm at festivals throughout the whole summer. I'm always gigging. Every weekend I'm somewhere. But we'll do a few more of these live shows with the band over the summer as well.
I want to come to the live show with the band.
Yeah.
That sounds really good.
Yeah. Well, the ones to come to for that will be the Brighton Funk and Soul Weekender.
Ooh, when's that?
I don't know.
I'm like,
I have to Google it.
I don't know. Ask it.
All I know is what's happening this weekend, always. And Shindig is another really good festival that we're going to be doing that at.
That sounds so cool. 3 things you wish you could have told your younger self.
Oh, that's way too hard. No, I don't even think I can answer that one. That's really, really tough. I know that I don't look back with any major regrets. so probably nothing.
That's really good. That's excellent.
I guess it's probably a good place to be at.
Yeah.
No, I don't feel like
really
I
good, Duncan.
wasted any time, or I guess it's just a nice thing to not have an answer to that question.
That's really good.
Oh, I just thought of one. Like maybe I shouldn't have stopped learning piano. I think I gave that up when I was doing exams at school, and if I'd have carried on, I think I could have. There was a lot of room for improvement there. That would have been useful. So there's one.
There's one.
Yeah.
Other than that, but like you're like Mary Poppins, positively perfect. I love that. What has been the most challenging about pursuing this as a career? I should say a lifestyle. It's really a lifestyle, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean what has been challenging about it? Monetizing it, because it's all very well being like, I'm going to play what I think is good, and to hell with like what's popular. There are points where I could have decided to go down the EDM route, or like...
I can't see you being EDM.
No, I just can't do it. Like,
Yeah.
I feel that there wasn't really any choice for me. I just play what I genuinely think is good, make what I genuinely think is good, which is very satisfying for your soul, but not always so satisfying for your bank account.
Yeah. No, I understand that. Where can people find you social media wise?
I'm on all of it. Just
Are you?
look
All
me
of them?
up. Yeah.
Across all of them.
Yeah, do the Googles.
Well, I have absolutely loved having you. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's been my pleasure.
Especially being off on tour so much. My
Yeah, no,
God.
well, I'm in kind of like the kind of wind down zone now, but it's good to have a chat always.
Okay, well, you're wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll catch you guys later. Thanks for listening to this episode of the ITMI podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, don't forget to subscribe, like, give us 5 stars, share with your friends, share with your enemies. We're available on all platforms, including SoundCloud and YouTube. If you have any suggestions, questions, or people you'd like to hear us interview for the podcast, then please drop us a line through our email address that's in the description. Thanks, and catch you next time.